If I had never met Christoph, there would be no King show.
Sometimes a performance is so perfect, it feels almost unfair to every other actor who's ever tried.
Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Basterds.
You're watching a man sit calmly at a breakfast table speaking in measured, elegant tones about the French countryside.
The nickname the people of France have given me.
They call you the Hunter.
Precisely.
And somehow, without raising his voice, without a single violent gesture, he becomes the most terrifying presence.
It will be met with reward. And that reward will be your family will cease to be harassed in any way by the German military during the rest of our occupation of your country.
Then, in another film, that same man tips his hat with courtly grace.
Good morning, innkeeper.
Speaks with the moral authority of a philosopher.
Normally, I would say auf Wiedersehen, but since what auf Wiedersehen actually means is till I see you again, and since I never wish to see you again, to you, sir, I say goodbye.
And sacrifices himself for justice.
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
And somehow, impossibly, you believe both versions completely. This is the paradox of Christoph Waltz.
Tarantino cast Waltz as Hans Landa.
I knew that Colonel Landa was one of the greatest characters I've ever written and one of the greatest characters I will ever write.
Ah, Landa, da sind Sie ja.
An actor who spent 30 years in the shadows of German television.
Doch bleibe ich hier, als neues Jahr.
He doesn't just play villains or heroes, he plays something far more unsettling. Human beings who exist in the space between good and evil, where charm becomes a weapon and politeness transforms into its own form of violence.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
Yes.
Where has this man been all our lives? And more importantly, how does he make us love characters we should despise and question heroes we want to trust? This is the story of how Christoph Waltz became both the perfect villain and the perfect hero.
That's a bingo.
I need your help. If you're not in a position to refuse, all the better.
And why that contradiction might be the key to understanding what great acting truly is.
Christoph Waltz is here for 30 years. He worked as an actor mostly in German television with no major English language credits to his name. Then along came Quentin Tarantino and his unconventional World War II film Inglourious Basterds. Tarantino cast Waltz as Hans Landa.
No way I can ever thank you enough, but I can start right now.
Waltz began his acting career in the late 1970s with all the passion of a young artist and none of the recognition he deserved.
Most dominant feeling was towards the end of that period, frustration.
For 3 decades, he worked steadily but invisibly in German television, Austrian theatre, and the occasional European film that barely registered outside its home country. But this wasn't the story of a struggling actor waiting tables between auditions. Waltz was working constantly, playing forgettable characters in forgettable productions. He was the kind of reliable character actor every industry needs but rarely celebrates. Competent, professional, and utterly anonymous. He was getting better.
I would like the two of us to enter into an agreement.
Every small role, every thankless television appearance, every night on stage was sharpening something extraordinary. But talent without opportunity is just
Frustratingly not okay.
He had no idea that somewhere in Los Angeles, a filmmaker was writing a character,
Landa.
He calls us down to his room and said, I might have written a role that can't be cast.
Quentin Tarantino had written himself into a corner. Hans Landa, the self-proclaimed Jew hunter, had to speak 4 languages fluently, possess the intellect of a detective, and somehow be charming enough that audiences would be seduced by his evil. For months, established actors auditioned and failed. They could be threatening or charming, but not both. They could speak 1 language perfectly, but not 4. Tarantino grew so desperate he considered abandoning the project entirely.
And I called the producers and said, look, if we can't find the right Landa, I'd rather just publish this script and do something else.
Then someone mentioned a name, Christoph Waltz.
I can just tell you the day that Christoph came, sat down, and read 2 scenes.
The audition lasted 4 hours. Waltz moved through French, German, English, and Italian with native fluency.
You know, he was speaking in French,
Mais maintenant, sur ma vie, impossible de m'en souvenir.
Then he went to English.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
At a certain point, he went to German.
Würden Sie bitte in die rechte untere Innentasche meines Mantels greifen und mir geben, was Sie darin finden?
And then he went into a little Italian.
Gli amici della vedetta ammirata da tutti noi, questa gemma propria della nostra cultura, saranno naturalmente accolti sotto la mia protezione per la durata del loro soggiorno.
He understood that this wasn't just a villain, this was a man who had turned genocide into a sophisticated game. When Waltz left the room,
And Quentin and I just looked at each other and our jaws were down on our knees. We just could not believe it. And he walked out of the room and we just high-fived each other.
Tarantino later revealed, this is Hans Landa.
I remember thinking, we're making a movie.
30 years of obscurity had prepared him for this exact moment. Hans Landa shouldn't work. A Nazi who quotes Shakespeare, savors strudel, and kisses hands like a gentleman. It should feel ridiculous. Instead, it
Seems like a good bit of fun.
Waltz understood something crucial. The most dangerous people aren't the ones who look evil, they're the ones who make evil look reasonable. We watch Waltz in the farmhouse scene. He sits across from a French farmer, and somehow you just know.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
Everyone hiding beneath the floorboard is doomed. He never raises his voice. He never loses his smile. Then he casually shifts from French to English, cutting off the family below from understanding their fate. And suddenly, language becomes a weapon. This is Waltz's genius. He doesn't play Landa as a monster. He plays him as a man who genuinely enjoys his work.
If there are any irregularities to be found, rest assured there will be.
The way he holds a handshake just a moment too long, the pause before saying bingo, the way he switches languages not to impress,
Dominic De Coco. Bravo. Bravo.
but to exclude, to dominate. Every gesture is calculated, every pause a power play. Take the strudel scene with Shoshana. He orders cream,
Attendez la crème.
and somehow that simple instruction becomes more menacing than a threat. He's not interrogating her, he's playing with her, and like a cat with a mouse, he's savoring every second. Waltz makes us complicit in Landa's evil. We're charmed by his intelligence, impressed by his fluency, even amused by his theatrical flair. And that's what makes him so disturbing. A man who simply cannot stand being outmaneuvered by someone he considers beneath him. And somehow, impossibly, that makes him more heroic, not less. Because Waltz understands that real heroes aren't perfect. They're flawed people who still choose to do the right thing, even when it costs them everything. In just 2 films, Waltz gave us the most charming villain in cinema history, and the most complex hero. And in both roles, he made us believe every word, every gesture, every contradiction. Waltz doesn't improvise, he decodes. While other actors search for motivation, Waltz searches for rhythm. Each consonant lands like a drumbeat. 30 years of theatre taught him that language is music, and he conducts every conversation like a symphony. Watch his hands. They're always in motion but never waste a gesture, a handshake held 12 seconds too long. A gentle guide of the arm. Each movement is deliberate, designed to assert control without ever raising his voice. And then there's the stillness. In a medium built on motion, Waltz weaponizes the pause. The breath before he says,
Ooh, that's a bingo.
the silence after,
I couldn't resist.
he understands real tension lives between the lines, not in them. Most actors play emotions. Waltz plays intelligence. His characters are always thinking faster than everyone else in the room, and he lets you watch them think. The subtle smile when a plan clicks into place. The head tilt just before a verbal trap is sprung. My job is not to simplify, he once said. It's to find out what's behind the line. And behind every line, Waltz finds the game. Asked about playing villains, he smiles. I don't play evil, I play logic. Evil is just what happens when logic has no conscience. This is the real Waltz. Not the charming killer or the noble gunslinger, but the theatre-trained craftsman who waited 30 years for the world to catch up to his precision. And when it finally did, he was ready. Christoph Waltz didn't arrive late, he arrived prepared, and when the world finally noticed, he gave us two of the most unforgettable performances of the 21st century. Which performance of Waltz stuck with you more? The villain?
Bingo!
Or the hero? Let us know below. And if you enjoyed the deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves film.
This seems like a good bit of fun.